Homicides are never closed
Okay.
unless an arrest is made, and basically unless it's been solved. Um, Franklin is an accredited agency, um, and we're required through the accreditation to review the case at least once a year to see if any new leads come up or anything like that. But no, a case like a homicide case is never closed unless an arrest is made. It was February the 1st, 1991. It was Peggy's birthday. She was working the night shift at Hardee's. She was working the drive-through. Her son Jude was working as a cook at Hardee's. About 11:45 p.m., about 15 minutes before they closed, someone ordered, or actually Jude heard a male voice order food through the intercom, the drive-through intercom speaker. Just moments later, Jude heard 2 gunshots and he saw his mom fall. He went to her side and another employee called 911. The VDOC Society is made up of 82 members, and it's basically the top experts in their field internationally in the world. There's FBI agents, there's law enforcement from the local level, state level, there's forensic scientists. Basically what I did at the end of last month is I presented the Peggy Cox case to the VDOC Society, and they offer suggestions after the presentation about some things that I could do, some things that I might need to look at. And it was actually a really good experience to get, I don't know, I guess an outside the box look at the case. And it was good because they're experts in their field from different areas, so they look at things a little differently than I would, growing up in a small town. Chief Rahinsky, he was a police officer in Philadelphia, and his dad was a high-ranking official with the police department, and he had some contacts that actually, one of the guys, which is a contact of his, actually helped start the VDOC Society. So Chief Rahinsky, because of his contacts, we were allowed to present our case.
Gotcha. Okay.
Before others. I've talked to a lot of her family and a lot of her friends and stuff, and Peggy's life was really about work, her children, and church. I mean, that's the common answer that I get from everybody. She really didn't date a lot. It was more about family. I couldn't find anything in her history that showed that any derogatory, information about Peggy at all, which makes it a little bit more difficult when you're looking at a case like this, as far as motive. But if I gave you what I thought the motive would be, it'd just be completely speculation. I can say one thing that I took from the VDOC Society is that even though I've been looking at this case for about 2 years, just going through the reports and reading what had been done in the past. But one of the suggestions that they gave at the VDOC Society is that I basically start over, and that's really kind of what I'm doing. So I can tell you there's several things that I'm looking at from the local level, and there's things that I'm looking at that may have happened outside the local level.
On February 1st, 1991, I was a patrol officer. Been on with the police department probably about 2 years at the time, and I was dispatched to a shooting call at Hardee's, located on Murfreesboro Road or 96 East in Franklin. The call actually came in as a subject at the drive-thru in a vehicle that was shot. So when I got on scene, I was right around the corner. I got on the scene within a minute of the dispatch call. I got on scene and I circled the store or the restaurant once, didn't see a vehicle outside. I asked dispatch, "You get a description of the vehicle?" At the time I assumed there might have been a victim that was in a vehicle that drove up to the drive-thru. And while dispatch was checking on that, that's when a male subject come running out of the restaurant toward my patrol car. It was later determined to be the decedent's son, Jude Cox. He was hysterical and very upset, stating that his mother had been shot while working at the drive-thru. At the time, I exited my vehicle, went inside the restaurant, cleared the inside the restaurant. I didn't know if the suspect was inside, outside. I had very limited information at the time, and my backup hadn't arrived yet. So I cleared the restaurant, make sure the suspect was not on scene, and then I was directed to the drive-thru area, where I found Miss Cox lying on the floor. I checked her pulse, respiration, and she had neither. She was obviously deceased at the time. I contacted EMS, and then I had my dispatch go ahead and notify the on-call detectives, since this was an apparent homicide. At the time, maybe about a minute later, officers arrived, EMS arrived on scene as well, and they went ahead and took Miss Cox to Williamson Medical Center, where she was subsequently pronounced dead at the hospital. She was shot behind the, if I'm not mistaken, behind the left ear. It was a through-and-through wound. Went in, I believe it exited out the other side of her head. Obviously, more than likely, she died very quickly, I assume. She was obviously deceased upon my arrival, and my arrival was within a minute. It was a single shot, through-and-through wound to the head, and that's all I saw at the time. She was lying unresponsive. As I said, I checked her pulse, respiration. She had neither. Maybe a minute and a half later, EMS arrived on scene because they were relatively short distance from the hospital right across the interstate. And they pretty much just scooped her up right there, put her on a backboard, and or a gurney, one or the other, and put her in an ambulance and proceeded right to the hospital. Well, actually, I was reporting initial officer on scene. I did the initial offense report. Other officers conducted supplemental reports. However, since as the years have gone by, I've been periodically involved with the case. I've been assigned to CID, and annually we will review our cold cases. And this is the only unsolved homicide we have here in Franklin, so it's reviewed annually. So I've been in that process of doing that. I also work very closely with Detective Barnes here, and he keeps me up to speed on any regarding the status of this case. So I've been following it pretty close since it occurred.
Yeah.